Hey grade 12s, so in today's video we're going to check out question 1, the grade 12 physics paper 1, 2025 Gauteng Prelim. We're going to start with question 1 here, the multiple choice question, so let's jump right in. So question 1.1 says, a mass hangs from a single vertical string attached to a ceiling. So we have something like this, we have the mass over here. Which of the following forces is the Newton's third law pair, so our action-reaction pair? If object A applies a force on object B applies a force of equal magnitude back on object A over here for the weight specifically of the mass. So we have the weight over here, Fg going down of the mass, okay, which means we have Earth below us over here. That is the relationship between Fg, it is the force due to gravity, which means we have 4 different options here, but our answer is C, and we're going to explain why now, because it says the gravitational force exerted by the mass on the Earth. So the weight over here is the force of the Earth on the mass. That's what's happening over here. The Earth is attracting the mass. Then what we have is the gravitational force exerted by the mass on the Earth. Okay, so this mass is also pulling up the Earth a little bit, just like Earth is pulling this mass down that is attached to this string over here. The reason this works is because of this formula over here. Our F equals G m1 multiplied by m2 over r squared. This has to do with the force that two objects have on each other, and this would be mass 1 and mass 2 would be Earth in this scenario. It is over the distance between them squared, okay, and G is the gravitational constant over here. But all we need to know as to why this action-reaction pair occurs is because Earth is pulling the mass down, but also the mass is pulling Earth up. And that is why this whole formula over here will help us, because we know that both of these masses are attracting one another. So that would earn us 2 marks over there. And then question 1.2 says, a block is at rest on a rough surface. The surface is at an angle theta over here to the horizontal. The block remains at rest, okay, so it does not change as the angle theta is slowly increased. So we are making this angle greater over here. Which of the following best describes how the magnitudes, the amounts of the static frictional force of the rough surface on the block and the normal force change as theta is slowly increased? So theta is slowly being increased over here. We have our different combinations of static frictional force and normal force. Our answer is D over here, and we're going to explain why the static frictional force increases and why the normal force decreases. So what we have is our block in its original position over here, and this is theta. We have our frictional force, the static frictional force specifically, going up the slope, while the Fg parallel is going down the slope. These guys are in equilibrium because this block is stationary, not moving. But as we increase the angle theta over here, so this is a bigger angle, we still have a stationary block based off of what they're saying, which means the frictional force, the static frictional force, has to become greater because Fg parallel becomes greater as well. And if they are still in equilibrium, if this guy has become greater, then this guy has to become greater as well, provided they are still in equilibrium and this block is still not moving down the slope, because then it would convert from static frictional force to kinetic frictional force. So that is why it increases, and the reason that the normal force decreases is because in this scenario, the Fn over here equals Fg perpendicular. So this would be our cos of our theta over there. Cool. And then what's happening here is that our Fn is still equaling our Fg perpendicular, but it becomes less because more of the weight, more of Fg down here gets incorporated into the Fg parallel, and therefore Fg perpendicular becomes less when we have a steeper slope. And Fn and Fg perpendicular over here are exactly the same because this block is not falling through the ground or lifting off the ground, which means they are in equilibrium. But if we have increased the amount of degrees of the slope, therefore the Fg perpendicular goes down, and that's why the normal force goes down as well, and our normal force decreases. Okay, question 1.3, they say we can select any answer, so we're not going to run through this question overall because they made a mistake expecting a ball that is thrown up with the same velocity and a ball that is thrown down from the same distance with the same velocity to hit the ground at the same time. And that won't work because they have the same velocity. This ball is going to go up first and then go down, and there's no way that if they had the same starting velocity, this one going up and this one going down, would they hit the ground at the same time. Okay, so there was an error in this question, so we can just write this question off over here and move to question 1.4. So 1.4 over here says, 2 trolleys of masses 3m and 2m are connected to each other and are moving at an unknown velocity. A small explosion between them causes the trolleys to move apart in opposite directions. The trolley of mass 3m moves at a velocity of v, and the trolley of mass 2m moves at a velocity of 4v. So they've mapped everything here for us on this diagram. It says, which of the following statements is correct? So we have different combinations for the total momentum before, P is our momentum over here, and the total kinetic energy after. Okay, EK, our kinetic energy after. They only wanted the after over here and the before over here. So this is part of our momentum and impulse section, where we usually do the EP before equals EP after, and the EK before equals EK after. But now they only want one side of this equation, so we're going to deal with that. So our answer over here is B, and we're going to explain why though. Because if we are working with the momentum before is our sigma P before, okay? That would usually equal sigma P after, but we only need the before portion. So if we unwrap this equation over here, we have M1 multiplied by V1 plus M2 multiplied by V2, okay? And if they're looking at the before scenario, we're going to be looking at this part of the question because it says 2 trolleys of masses 3m, so we can plug in 3m over here plus 2m over here are connected to each other and are moving at an unknown velocity. They are connected and they are moving at the same velocity, which means we have v over here and v over here, which means that we have exactly the same symbols over here, m and v. These are algebraic equations, which means we can just go ahead and add them together. So we have 5mv over here for the total momentum before. For the total kinetic energy afterwards, we're going to be looking at this section over here of the question where we have them moving in opposite directions. And very similar to the previous question, we have our E of our EK, and this time it is just after that we're looking at, not the before portion, which means our EK formula is half mv squared plus half mv squared. And if we look over here, we can see on the diagram that we have half 3m is the mass value of this one over here multiplied by negative v because it is moving to the left. We are taking left as negative and right as positive. Whenever we're in momentum and impulse, we're going to have to pick a positive direction. We'll usually take right and up as positive in this section as well as free fall, which means we have negative v. Ultimately, that won't affect us because we have a square over here plus half 2m, as we can see over here, multiplied by 4v squared because we have the velocity over here of this one, which means this is the formula set up for the total kinetic energy after. And all we have to do is simplify this equation because a half times 3 over there becomes 1.5m, and then that is multiplied by v squared because negative times by itself is positive, v multiplied by itself is squared, plus by half times 2 is 1, so we have 1m over here multiplied by 4, which is 16, and then v squared because v is also squared as well. The 4 is squared and the v is squared, which means this whole one over here, 1 times 16 is 16, m times v squared is mv squared. So we can just go ahead and simplify this equation. We have 1, 5 mv squared plus 16 mv squared, and that comes to 17, 5 mv squared, like we can see over here for the total kinetic energy after for answer B. So that would earn us 2 marks over there. Cool. And then question 1.5 says a car is moving in a straight line. The velocity of the car decreases with time as shown in the diagram below. Okay, so it is hypothetically starting at 10 meters per second and ending at 0 meters per second. So it is going to decrease until it stops. And then we have 0 for our time over here. And let's give it a different number. Let's say it's 20 seconds over here at the end point. So which of the following graphs best represent the power of the braking system over this period of time t? So we have 4 options over here, and we're about to see why our answer is D over here with a straight line that is decreasing. So there's 2 ways we can work with this. We can use P equals W over delta t, but we're not going to work with that just because for the W over here, we're going to have to convert it into EK, which is half mv squared, and that is how we'd use this information here with the V to calculate the EK over here, the energy in joules, because EK and W are different symbols, but they both work with joules, which means we can then extrapolate this to get the work and calculate the power and see that it ends up being a straight line exactly like the velocity time graph that was given above. But the easiest way to do it is to use the P equals F times V formula over here, because what's happening is that there's a constant force from the braking system over time. Okay, so the force is remaining constant, which means that if our velocity is decreasing over here, as we can see, it is decreasing. As it decreases, the power will decrease linearly because the force is kept constant, which means that as the velocity goes down, the power goes down, which means that the shape of 1.5 over here, the velocity time graph, is exactly the same as the shape of the power time graph over there. Cool. And that would earn us 2 marks over there.